We must now proceed to the Urban Regeneration and Housing Amendment Bill 2017 first stage, and I call on Deputy Catherine Murphy to move for leave to introduce the bill.
I seek leave to introduce the Urban Regeneration Housing Amendment Bill 2017. I think it's fair to say that we're living in the middle of a housing emergency. 7,500 people currently live in emergency accommodation. 1 in every 3 homeless persons is a child. Rents are at record levels. Home ownership is beyond the reach of many on average incomes. And at the very heart of these problems is the availability and the cost of land. The high cost of land in Ireland drives costs of rents, business leases, house prices, infrastructure investment. High land prices encourage speculation and land hoarding, and in turn these practices lead to excessive land vacancy, inefficient land use, dereliction and problematic sites that often invite antisocial behaviour. Yet the political and administrative institutions of our country remain largely passive on this key issue, and the Urban Regeneration and Housing Act 2015 introduced a vacant site levy, but it left us with several loopholes and allowed for very slow implementation. This bill seeks to amend the 2015 Act. Its central aim is to make more land available so that more housing can be developed and so that the cost of land and housing can be moderated. It has 4 main purposes. Firstly, it seeks to apply the vacant site levy to all lands that can potentially accommodate housing within existing development standards. The current Act seeks to limit the limit of 0.5 hectares or 500 square metres, meaning the levy can't be applied to vacant sites smaller than this, so there's no activation of these sites. They're not considered a priority. This excludes many sites that could readily accommodate residential units. 174 sites were excluded from the Dublin City Council vacant site register on that basis alone. The new provision would allow the levy to be applied to sites of any area that, in the opinion of the Planning Authority, could accommodate housing units and still meet development standards. The second provision is to ensure that the rate of the levy is increased the longer the site remains vacant. Currently, the 3% levy applies regardless of how long the site has been vacant. However, this won't deal with landowners who are hoarding or speculating if the rate of land inflation is high. There would be very little incentive for such landowners to sell or develop the site in question. We propose that the levy be increased by 1 percentage point for every full year that the site remains on the register. In this way, the longer the site remains vacant, the larger the levy that will apply, and it creates a significant incentive for the owner to activate the site. The third provision is to remove the lower rates of levy applying to sites with outstanding loans. Under bands set down by the 2015 Act, the higher the loan attached to the vacant site, the lower the levy that applies. We believe this provision invites deliberate manipulation of legislation, incentivises debt and excludes a significant number of sites from the scope of the Act. It unfairly prioritises the rights of the landowner over the public good, and we are proposing to repeal those provisions. The final provision is to require the zoning and area of each site to be published on the vacant sites register. This would provide better information and greater transparency and would improve the usability of the register. In conclusion, the government must take several measures to deal with the critical housing shortage. It should be much more active on over-the-shop premises, vacant housing, derelict sites and underused housing. This bill is just one measure that Social Democrats would propose to deal with this crisis. We commend the bill to the House and would be grateful for the support of other deputies on all sides. Thank you.
Is the bill being opposed? The bill is not being opposed, so if the motion for leave to introduce is agreed, could I ask Deputy Murphy to move that the second stage be taken in private members' time?
So move.
You so move. Is that agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much. We now proceed to